Well, hi everybody out there on YouTube. This is Sparky Mike. Welcome to the Old School Reefer channel. Guess I got a project in the works here. Got a buddy's 3D printer here at the house. Got it up and running and working on trying to get a program for making magnetic frag racks, since this guy kind of went out of business. So if you know of a program that you could possibly send me, I would kiss your pretty pink toes. Anyways, I found a couple on Thingiverse, but they're not quite like this guy. So, if you happen to know of anybody that has that type of a program for a Persa printer, let me know. So, anyways, on to the video. I guess I wanted to send out words of encouragement for any newbies out there that may have algae issues, or maybe even some old schoolers that are having some algae issues. Wanted to kind of touch base real quick and kind of give an update as we go, and kind of a quick overview of what we got here. And lines leading in, of course, from upstairs. But anyways, words of encouragement and patience for the newbies out there. And probably I'll try to explain as we go along here. Anyways, decided to upgrade my office and add another tank into the system, and add, of course, to the system. So I will continue on here. So, what I'd like to say is, when you fire up a new tank as a newbie, and even old schoolers like, we all run into algae issues. Algae just overwhelms the substrate, overwhelms the aquascaping, and can pretty much overwhelm you. So, this tank's been running a couple years into this 55 gallon sump, and of course all the equipment on the 425 gallon system. Now with the addition of this newer tank. So older tanks have seasoned substrate and seasoned aquascape rocks, and they've been in there a while, and they seem to get what I would call algae proof. And algae proof in the meaning that when you add brand new aquascaping to even an existing system, and I've been doing this 37 years, so I have a pretty good manage on it. Been keeping the fish for 40 years, something, 43 years. So since I was a little kid. And I developed a really good way to, I guess, remove nutrients out of my system. And it's kind of like aquaponics, but for saltwater. And this is what I would call my algae scrubbing tank, which runs on an opposite cycle of my display tanks. And it runs for about 16 hours, and when I do a harvest of chaeto out of it, or large amounts of algae that are growing on the egg crate, sections that are stuck in that tank, especially to keep the chaeto away from the drain, along with silk stream to keep the baby shrimp, bunch of peppermint shrimp that are hatching in there, keep it out of the drain. So I pull those sheets out, hose them down with a hose, and it's basically a pretty good algae scrubber. Plus I cash in buckets, 5-gallon buckets of chaetomorph out of the tank, and when I do, I turn it back on to about a 24-hour schedule versus the 16-hour opposite night cycle. So day cycles, I run 8 hours pretty much of intense light, hour ramp up, maybe 2-hour ramp down. And on newer tanks, I try not to run them full power, as it promotes algae growth on unseasoned rocks and substrate. And of course this tank became a nightmare after about 90 days. with the new rock and substrate. So with that being the issue, every 3 days or so, 4 or 5 days, the substrate on the bottom would grow a firm mat of hair algae. And of course, being a pandemic, I couldn't find reef sand locally, and I've always used reef sand. And all my tanks never really liked the crushed coral. I have a bunch of bottom feeders and gobies and stuff, so I generally buy the reef sand. Well, being a pandemic, they only had the crushed agronite, which is larger crushed fresh pieces unseasoned, and boy did it grow a mat of algae in a heartbeat. And you could basically turn the gravel, and within hours almost the hair algae would be growing up through the cracks in the gravel. So full mat in just days. What a pain. So the rocks have also grown algae on them, but not near as bad as the substrate on the bottom. So a couple bags and a change out of substrate. See back there in the corner was the old agronite. Change out of substrate, a couple scoops from this other tank, and the algae has slowed down considerably. So anyways, you're going to have algae build up on new substrate, dead rocks, whatever they want to call it, live dry rock. Any brand new substrate is going to be unseasoned, and it's going to become an algae nightmare for at least a year, or sometimes maybe even 2. So be patient, do the best you can. Even with the best algae scrubbing system in the world, you're still going to have problems. So after 37 years, there's a couple words of advice. Thank you, Jake. Shout out to you. 12 of 14 are still alive. And of course, I was wondering how I was going to frag that mess where the hermit has shed himself. Well, I managed to knock off a bunch of pieces, picked them out, and made some more frags. Yay! Anyways, thank you, Jake. 12, 14 made it. I hope yours are doing well. And so, just wanted to give words of patience and reassurance to newbies. You're going to have algae issues, no matter if you've been in it 3 months or 37 years. So, shout out to all of you. If you're having algae issues, turn your light down a little bit, or raise it up, or cycle it less hours. Cut her back to 8 hours a day. I do 9-10 hour cycles on these tanks, same with upstairs. Fewage is opposite at 16 hours, and if I harvest it goes back on 24 hours. So anyways, words of wisdoms, encouragement, words of hope for newbies, beginners, old school. Even if you add one into the system, you're still going to have a little bit of a problem. I'd forgotten how much of a problem it was. Anyways, thumbs up. I appreciate them. Subscribers, I appreciate that too. Hope my content's good enough. Any questions, comments, please leave them, and I'll answer them as quick as I can. Thank you. Have a great night. Everybody take care.